My name is Jimmy, and this is my story.
A fresh way to approach a dull or dangerous thing. To do a dangerous thing with style is what I call art.
My story was never really anything super tragic. It really relies upon my need for relationships, my need for lust, and pretty much anything that goes with that. Growing up in middle school, I was introduced to a lot of things that in 6th grade I wasn't used to. I was very innocent, let's just say that word. I was naive to a lot of the things that was going on in the world and a lot of the dangers that come with it. One of the things that I know that really impacted me as a kid was when I was first introduced to the world of pornography. It really took a lot out of me and out of my innocence. One of the things I remember is how quickly it took hold, how quickly it dug its claws into my life and everything that I knew at the time. In that time period, I know that I was introduced to a lot of vulgar music, being hip hop, being rock music, all that stuff. Those things really kind of persuaded me to search more and to see more. It didn't help what I was going through at all. With a young, naive mind at that time period, I was soaking up everything, from music videos to movies to just music, listening to the music and hearing the words that they were using. And I would go and search that up on Google. Man, it was just a trap. And I don't believe that a lot of people understand how persuasive music can be. Being an artist, a Christian artist at that, it's definitely eye-opening now. Seeing what I've seen and also seeing what I see now in music and how accepted demonic music is now. Demons, devils, all these things. And you may call me the crazy conspiracist, but if you just take a second and look at what they're producing and look at what they're putting right in front of your face at the Grammy Awards, at the Oscars. This is what I was introduced to at a young age, but it was very much more subtle than it is today. Moving on, of course, I got into these relationships, and these relationships evolved into like more than one in 1 year, and seeing that on TV, these reality TV shows showing the dating world as you just try to date as many people as you can, you try to hook up with as many people as you can, you try to just cheat on your partners, like marriage and a committed relationship are just nothing. These are the things where I was being introduced to through the television, through reality TV, through Jersey Shore, through The Real World. These shows shaped young minds and the minds that that I grew up with and I'm living with today. And being exposed to all that, when I got into these relationships, I was trying to do the same thing they were doing. Luckily for me, well, it's not luck, it was just God. God introduced me to himself at the ripe young age of 16. Now, a little backstory just real quick. I grew up in church. My mom and my dad, they took me to church. I was in the youth groups. I did the whole church thing. So I knew of God. I just didn't know God. I didn't care to get to know him. Nobody explained who God was to me really. Outside of my mom and my dad, they introduced me to him, which I'm grateful for. So I already had like a sort of solid understanding of who God is. But it wasn't until I had a radical encounter with God through Christian hip hop music, of all things. I got saved at this Christian hip hop concert. One of the guys led me to the Lord, and it was a beautiful night, man. I wasn't even planning on going, but my friend persuaded me. He's like, man, you gotta come. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be, we're gonna have music. We're gonna have this, we're gonna have that. It's just gonna be awesome. You need to be there. And I said, all right, you're my boy. Of course, I'll go. I'll go to support you, because he was performing that night. And so I was like, all right, I'll go. So I get there to the concert. Of course, I meet up with my friend. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? I'm excited to see you perform, man. And he had his, I think, 3 other guys there with him. And they were all gonna perform together. And I was like, man, this is awesome. This is really cool. Seeing my friend, he just recently gave his life to the Lord. He was wanting to talk to me about God. I still was kind of like real hesitant, because I was like, look, you know, I get it. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that Christian guy. I don't want to be that guy. And so finally, when I went to this concert, I started feeling something that I had never felt before in church. It was like a weird welcoming, a weird welcoming feeling. That's the only way I can explain it right now, but it was awesome. It was really cool. It was a really amazing moment. And towards the end, this guy named Richard Lumen, I'll never forget his name, and I'll never forget his testimony. And I'm not gonna go through his testimony, but super awesome guy. Amazing speaker, man. I think he even played music too that night. But he got up there and gave his testimony, and how he just went through the ringer, man. He went through it constantly, you know, from spending most of his time in the valley. And this man had the audacity to get up there and tell me that he loves Jesus still. He doesn't blame God for the things he went through. He loves Jesus. He worships Jesus. I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm like, what? You went through all of that. You had all these things go wrong in your life. And God allowed it. And you still want to love him? You still want to trust him with your life? Crazy. That's just crazy. So he gets up there, he tells his testimony, and it was awesome, man. And by the end of it, man, I was in tears. And I went up to my friend who invited me to the concert. Went up to him and I said, look, man, after hearing that, I don't know what you guys have, but I want it. And that was a pinnacle moment for me, because that was the day that I laid my life down and I gave my life to the Lord, and I started living it out as a follower of Jesus. You know, I went home that night, of course, like we all do, and I started Genesis, and I'm tossing and turning. I'm like, yes, let's go. Let's read it. I get to the names, man. I start get out of breath, kind of, you know, reading all those names, the lineage of Jesus, you know, or the genealogy of Jesus, man. And for the first time, instead of just knowing of God, I had a hunger to know God. And it was a wonderful, wonderful thing, man. And I was able to really get discipled under my friend. He was getting discipled himself, so it was kind of like just a waterfall. Just we were both getting discipled at the same time. It was really cool, man. Of course, I still have this desire to be in a relationship, and it wasn't like it was. My desire after finding Jesus wasn't to just be in a relationship because that's what you're supposed to do. It was, I wanted to be in a relationship to honor this person, to love this person, to build this person up. And that's what it started out as, you know? Unfortunately, it didn't stay like that, because in the grand scheme of things, I let this person become my God. It wasn't about worshiping God together. It was about spend all my time with this person, and whatever's left, that's God. That went on for a while, of course. I was still doing music at the time. I was still rapping for the Lord and doing concerts. I was working on my first album, which was crazy. Little did I know that God would use every single album I've ever created. I would have to live through it first. This album was titled Revive. I did the single for the album, which was obviously entitled Revive. And it talked about a lot of things that, you know, me standing up for what I believed in and not bowing down to what is contrary to the Bible. It was cool. It was cool, man, for my first song. And I had already worked on a couple other songs before that. Well, this relationship I had gotten into, like maybe a year or so after I did the album, I got into this relationship and it did not end well. let's just say that. And it was very heartbreaking for me, because it was I thought this one was the one. I had plans for a ring, all that stuff. And I'm so glad it didn't work out, because now I got this ring with my beautiful wife I have now, and I have no regrets about that. But for the story's sake, it was really traumatic for me, and it really, really took a toll on me and my faith. At that point, when we had split up, I had told God I wanted nothing to do with him. I said, I'm done making music for you. I'm done making music, period. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Those are the words I said. That was one of the worst moments of my life. I'm thankful I had a friend who was there for me. Shout out Austin Cleveland. I'm glad I had a friend who was there for me, man. And he just wanted me to get out of the funk I was in. I was in my room for like 2 days straight, didn't go anywhere, just depressed. But he was there to kind of help take me out of that. So one day, Austin reaches out to me and he's like, hey man, let's just go to the club, let's blow off some steam, let's just go. We don't gotta do anything, you just gotta get you out of this house. It's like, cool. He picked me up, and we went to this club. We get there, and of course, you know, my whole perspective is like, I'm just so depressed. I don't even want to do anything at all. I don't want to be talking to anybody. I don't want to associate with anybody. Let me just sit here and just chill. I was very, very, very depressed. 200, 300 people in this club, and I felt so alone. I don't know why, but I felt so alone. I get to the point where, you know, I have a beer in my hand, I'm over leaning up against this pole, and I'm just watching everybody have the grandest time. They're dancing, they're having fun. I see this old man, and he starts just slowly just making a circle around, and this old man just like staggering, like he can barely even walk a straight line. He's drunk. And he walks over and he passes me initially, but then he just stops. And I'm kind of just watching him. I'm like, this is strange. He stops and he turns around. He walks over to me and puts his hand on my arm and says, stop worrying. It's gonna be all right. And he walks off. And I'm like, what the heck? That was weird. Okay. Well, 15, 20 minutes goes by. I'm still over there just feeling sorry for myself, all depressed. And lo and behold, I see the old man again. He's making his circle around. Same exact path he did the first time. Stops in the same exact spot that he stopped the first time. Turns around exactly the way he did the first time. But this time, he puts his hand on my shoulder, like kind of like, and he says, stop worrying, it's gonna be all right. And then he turns and walks off. And at this point, I'm speechless. I'm like, okay, this is weird. I don't know what's going on. I'm not exactly sure if this is spiritual, or if this is just in my head, or if I'm just trying my best to process, or I don't know what's going on at this point. All I know is that just happened. At this point, I'm like, all right, God, if this is you, and if this is you telling me and trying to warn me and trying to comfort me, I said, God, if this is you, you make this happen again. And again, this is the third time. God loves working in threes. I don't know why, he just does. But I said that, and I am not even joking, 5 minutes later, same path, same turn. But this time, he puts his hand on the back of my neck. He says, stop worrying. It's gonna be all right. I was speechless at that point. All I could say was Jesus. That was all I could say. And I started praying right there in the middle of the club. I put my beer down. In the middle of the club, I said, okay, you made your point, God. I get it. I get it now. And so at that point, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off and trying to find my friend my friend Austin. I'm trying to find him, and I cannot find him. And so I finally find him. He's over there just hanging out, and I'm like talking a million miles a minute. He's like, slow down. I can't understand you. What are you talking about? And I'm trying to tell him, and nothing's coming out correctly. And it's just wild because at that point I knew, okay, I'm meant for more than just this. And it's crazy because all this revelation started coming to me at that very moment was about how I was putting this relationship over God himself, when God is the one who originally blessed me. I'm not saying that she was the one, because she wasn't, obviously. My wife is the one. But it was a correction for me. And I took it as a punishment, and I took it as God not caring for me. One lesson I learned was that he cared for me enough to go find me in the middle of a club, in the middle of my depression, in the middle of my hurt, in the middle of my pain, in the middle of my anxiety. He said, I'm not done with you yet. And 100%, that's all God. 100%, that is all God. And listen, here's the last thing, man, and this is what I learned from it. And I was trying to decipher everything that happened, because it was just so much all that happened at one time. And years later, and I'm talking years later, I finally understood what the hand placement was. God was kind of speaking to me in a way that I could understand him, but he didn't just go straight for the obvious yet. He said, hey friend, when you're friends with somebody, you don't just go up and hug them, do you? Or just kind of acquaintances with somebody, or you don't do that, right? You just kind of, hey, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. The second hand placement was, hey brother, it's gonna be all right. And listen, the third hand placement, hey son, it's gonna be all right. And see, that spoke volumes to me when I finally understood that. He was speaking to me in a way that I can understand him. Because I've heard people say it's gonna be okay. At that point in my life, my friend was telling me, yo, it's gonna be all right, bro. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I heard that a million times from other people, but the fact that when I heard it in those three different ways, it's almost, I hate to make this comparison, but I feel like it was kind of almost like when Jesus was speaking to Peter, asking him, do you love me? And he had to ask it in those three times, but there was the love he was talking about that Peter was giving him was not the love that Jesus was requiring. And I feel like that God had to show me that in that moment, like, hey brother, or hey friend, hey brother, hey son, it's gonna be all right. And it resonated with me then. That's what snapped me out of it. And I'm always thinking, I always compare that story to the story of Hosea and Gomer. Of course, me being Gomer, being the one who strayed away, being the one who ran away after being following Jesus, after talking to Jesus, after being a follower of Jesus, I decided to leave. But God didn't just leave me in the middle of my pain, in the middle of that club. No, he ran after me. He chased after me. Now, did that man ever exist, that old man? I have no idea. I had trouble finding the guy afterwards. After I kind of grabbed my bearings, I was like, I'm gonna go find this guy. I'm gonna go talk to him. Maybe he's an angel, I don't know. I have no idea. I couldn't find him anymore. So I don't know if the guy was real or if God just used him in that moment. And here's the thing. I told you, this guy was staggering. He was drunk as a skunk. But his words were so clear. There was no slurring. There was no stuttering. His words were crystal clear. And that, my friends, is how God works. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that after that moment, I had it all together. But one thing I did from that was I had a perspective of things might not be going the way that I want them to right now, but they're going the way they need to be going right now. and that my perspective on my situation means everything. So my albums speak for themselves because Green Room came from that. This is my third album. My second album was Start Over, but my third album was Green Room. And what Green Room was a perspective change. That when I go through situations and trials, it's time for me to go back to my green room. I gotta build it up. I gotta start bulking up again. And that my situation, yeah, it might not be the best situation at that moment, but it's the right situation. God has called me to grow through, not just go through. And so, you know, the beautiful story is that I ended up meeting my wife, you know, through Instagram of all places in 2019. All that took place in 2014, or 2013, 2014 period. And yeah, that's my story. And I hope that you gain something from it, and that you see that nobody's perfect, nobody's going to be perfect, and if they are, then they need to repent because you're not perfect. But we're going through this, man. We're working through it together. Iron sharpens iron, man. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I love you guys. Peace.
What you hear in the song was ghosts written by him. I'm just the instrument, and that's what I've always been. So keep the awards, the deals, and the accolades too. I